Hey judges, it's Shania. Welcome to The Rundown, where I rank the top 5 most polarizing political topics shaping the conversation each week. If you are new here, quick beat on how this works. I track the biggest political moments across the media landscape, then rank the top 5 based on impact, reaction, and the amount of noise they are generating. But before I jump into this thing, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button. The political arena is forever changing, and I want you to stay in the know. Now, don't let me down. The judges' table is filling up, but there is always room for you. Okay, now that I have that out the way, let's get into this rundown. All right, coming in at number 5, James Clyburn seeks re-election. Okay, so I think most of us know who he is, but if you do not, you might be wondering why this made the top 5. So I'll do a quick wiki moment just to make sure we are all on the same page with his pedigree. Okay, so James Clyburn represents South Carolina in the House. He was first elected back in 1992 and has been there ever since, which makes this his 17th term. And one thing you might remember if you were on this type of thing back in 2020, he played a pivotal role in making sure Biden secured the Democrat primary. Like, his endorsement was a game changer. So basically his name carries a lot of weight amongst the Democrat base. So when someone like Clyburn announces he is seeking re-election again, it sparks a conversation. And it seems that most people are aligned when it comes to his legacy. That part is not being debated. But there is a split, and it is surrounding the idea if he should retire or continue with this re-election bid. So you have people who are legit Team Clyburn, and they believe that as long as he wants to and have the willpower to do so, he has the right to seek re-election. And those people also think that Congress runs on senior leadership, and if Democrats take back the House with Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker, they want Clyburn there as help Jeffries navigate those waters. And the other side, well, their argument feels both straightforward and nuanced at the same time. Because like I said, they do respect his legacy, but they also feel it's time for him to step aside. They want to see the party start to turn things around and usher in the new generation of leadership. And then there is the conversations around term limits and age expectations starting to come up again too. Which leads me to this uncomfortable part of the discussion. Sometimes members stay in office to the point where they pass away while still holding the seat, which can throw districts into sudden special elections. And it's like, that should be the last thing people are thinking about. But the people who watch the numbers closely are raising this concern. And it is not just about Clyburn, because if you do your research, which I'm encouraging you to do, judges, you will find there are over 20 elected officials that share his age group, some of which are already planning to continue their re-election bids too. Yeah, so all of this conversation is what landed James Clyburn in the top 5. He is running for re-election again, and all we can hope for, continue to provide grade A leadership to America and the people of South Carolina. Now on to number 4, the state of Georgia special election results. All right, to line this up correctly, there is a bit of a backstory here. And the backstory comes with understanding why Georgia had to have a special election in the first place, and the answer is Marjorie Taylor Greene. See, back in November of last year, she announced she would be stepping away from Congress, and she gave the date of January 5th, so the seat is currently empty. And they finally got around to holding the special election this week. Now, what you need to know is that this seat historically leans Republican. And if you know anything about Georgia, think Rome, Dalton, and Ackworth, because those cities are within that district. But you wouldn't know that if you were just looking at the special election exit numbers, because the Democrat on the ticket is edging the Republican candidate. We have to put this in perspective, though, because there were a handful of Republicans on the ballot, only one Democrat. So what this means is that the vote was split on the right. However, Sean Harris, the Democrat, pulling close to 40% and heading into a runoff, that is nothing to sleep on. And the conversation around this is about, is this an outlier? Can Harris really turn that district blue, or has he stated pink? Or is this something that will eventually fall in line with the historical trend? And I will keep you updated on this, even if it falls out the rundown. The runoff is set for April 7th, so a couple of weeks before we get the answer to this question. But all of this energy around the election results is why this landed in the top 5. Now we move to number 3, this DHS TSA funding issue. Okay, there is only one way to kick this one off, by saying, what the fugula is going on here? So the Democrats is fighting for things related to ICE, which falls under DHS, but TSA is being punished and it's affecting everyone. And now people across the country are complaining about the long lines at TSA. But more importantly, some workers are choosing to continue to work, but they are working without pay. And other workers are finding ways to do side hustles while also having to tap into savings just to make ends meet. Then you have to consider this just played out back in October. So to turn around less than 6 months later, and here we are again, yeah, something has to be done. Not to mention, what is the plan? Because for the third time, the Senate failed to secure the 60 votes necessary to pass the DHS funding bill, so now what? Especially because the reports are that approximately 60,000 people are caught in the middle of this mess. And all of this craziness around TSA is why this lands at number 3. Now on to number 2, the SAVE Act Resurgence. Okay, judges, if you've been here, you know I have a playlist speaking to this whole thing. But if you want to catch up on how this has been playing out, go check out the playlist. I'll link it in the description box. I'm going to just bring you up to speed on why this took the number 2 spot on this episode of The Rundown. Now, why did it land in the top 2? Well, one reason, Donald Trump. See, he took to Truth Social and declared that he wouldn't sign any executive orders until this thing is passed. And it's his long belief that the only reason why this hasn't been passed is because the Democrats are using this as a mechanism to cheat in the elections. And the Democrats are saying this is a non-issue. And worse, the narrative from that side is likening this to Jim Crow, back when voting suppression was running rampant in the states. And the layer that tops this whole thing is the people. Where are we, the people, when it comes to this situation? Because if I am to believe the polling data, it seems that the majority of the people, which includes Republicans, Democrats, and independents, want some level of voting identification. And so the conversation should move. It needs to now center around how to get this done in a way that is fair and consistent across the states. And also bipartisan in nature. Like, neither party should try to win this one, they just have to get it done. So this is why the SAVE Act debuts on the rundown at number 2. Now we move to the top spot of the rundown. And the top spot of the week, holding on for a second week in a row, the US-Iran conflict, because this ongoing story continues to dominate the headlines and our charts. Starting with the confusion of the timeline of this thing. Is it over? Are we still going? What is the true status of it all? Then there was an unfortunate event. It seems that a girls' school in Iran was bombed by one of our Tomahawk missiles. And originally the story was them putting the blame on others, stating that other countries have Tomahawks also, so this could have been one of them. Once the update came out, the story is now that we did bomb the girls' school. And the reason is because they were operating on old intel. Then there is Pete Hegseth. In the middle of all of this, he is firing photographers from the Pentagon because they are taking what he believes to be unflattering photos of him. Like, of all things, we don't have time for that. We need people in place doing the job correctly, because literally lives are being lost, and that was immature coming from the head of the Department of Defense. Because it has been recently reported that we lost 6 lives when a KC-135 went down. And this is being reported as somewhat of a freak accident, because they are saying the aircraft wasn't fired upon, so I'm not sure. And that brings total lives lost thus far to 13, with many reports of other injuries. So literally, there is no time to game this situation, because it is not a game. And please stop with this short-term pain, long-term gain nonsense, because it's tone deaf when you consider the families that are grieving the loss of their loved ones. Not to mention the gridlock over there, trying to navigate the Straits of Hormuz. and reports of merchant vessels being set ablaze and ships getting stuck. All while our leadership puts together mashups of these events merged next to NFL tackles and shit. Finally, which is the most trivia of all of this, is the rising gas prices, which is a direct result of this war. So all of this is why the US-Iran conflict holds on to the top spot in this episode of The Rundown. Now it's your turn, judges. What do you think? Do you agree with my top 5? Or did something else catch your eye this week? And before I go, I only have one more request. Please continue to pray for our military service members, their families, and all the veterans out there that might be triggered by these events. Now remember, facts over noise, forever and always, and I'll see you next week for another episode of The Rundown.